We're working on the trigger reassembly for this 870, so I'm going to show y'all step by step how to put this back together. This is totally stripped down, of course, guys. We Cerakoted everything, cleaned up all the parts, and we're ready to go back with everything. So let's go ahead and get started here. Let me grab a shop rag. And I'll show you what we're doing. So first off, let's get this spring right here. Guys, I didn't show the strip down of this. This is just going to be the reassembly. Bear with me just a second. Let me get some power plugged into this camera. All right. Now this is going to be oriented, this spring is going to be oriented in this position, and it just goes around here like this. Let's push it on. And this is the way it's going to look. Next thing you do is, I like to put just a tiny bit of oil right there. We'll just stick this in there just for a second. That's where that's going to go. And go ahead and put this in. That was Cerakoted. Now this is going to go be oriented like this. It's going to go through this slot right here. We're going to actually take that out for just a second. And you just need to make sure that it's set up like this position right here. So once we got that action bar in, we're going to take this spring and it will be oriented on the other side of this action bar like such. Now you can throw that spring and plunger back in, and then we're going to put this pin, and we'll get the hammer started in just a second. It's going to be oriented in that position. A little too far there. Let's push it back. Sorry, it's a little difficult to see in the camera and work on this at the same time. This will go. What's happening is, I'll tell you guys why this is a little stiff. Is this had to be slightly drilled to get this pin to unseat, and it's flared out just a hair, and those tolerances are pretty tight. You just knock it back through here real quick. As you can see, it's getting stuck there. I'm trying to just reshape it instead of sanding that down. Try not to take any material off. This handy tool. just have to take just a hair off that. If you can see, it's kind of rolled from when we drilled it. So I'm going to take that off real quick, and then we'll stick this right back in. All I'm going to do is take a little sandpaper, light grit sandpaper, and just go around the edge, and that'll take care of that. Grit, and just kind of knock the edges off. It's still flared just a tiny bit, but I'm not wanting to take much material off that. I'm going to leave as much as possible. So let's get this oriented back like we had it. I actually think I might have had that hammer in backwards in the first place, now that I'm looking out from underneath the camera at this point. Okay. Like I say, it's still pretty stiff, so we're going to go ahead and put it on my bench block here. Okay. And this, you're going to want flush. So bear with me. Let's go ahead and push this in. This all set proper in just a moment. Just be careful, guys. We just Cerakoted that, but see a little rub mark there, but that Cerakote's pretty darn good. Okay, let me show you what we've done. This action bar, this top of this, actually sits on top of that plunger. Let me see if I can show y'all that. Make sure your spring is behind this. And that's going to have everything lined up. As you can see, that pin's come all the way through there. We're going to flare this out to kind of stake that pin. But first we need to make sure that's flush. That's not quite flush. And I have to wiggle it off the camera and get that totally flush. So give me just a second, guys. It's just going to be too difficult to do this and hold it. So all you're going to want to do is move this back and forth. It's kind of stiff anyway right here, so we will get that pin back in place. It's almost there. Yeah, that's about flush. Okay. Mechanically, that's the way this is going to operate. All right, let's move to the next step. All right, went ahead and stake that hammer pin down, and all we did was take a Phillips screwdriver, put this against the vise, and pinned it just to flare that out. Everything's held in place now. Nothing's falling out. Everything's good. So let's put the shell lifter on. It's going to go oriented like this. Lift this claw up. You got a large pin that is going to go through here. I'll kind of show you how this goes. Just stick this through here. And it's going to orient like this. However, you have a spring and a plunger that you're going to have to put in. I'm just trying to show you how to orient this. And that's going to be this right here and this spring. Once again, just a drop of oil inside. If you want to, do it. If you don't want to, that's up to you. This is actually going to go right here. Dab of oil on the outside of this surface of that plunger. And we've kind of got this oriented already. I'll just show you. Push this through here. And this may get a little tricky. I only have one hand, and this is kind of a two-person job here. Gonna go ahead and take this pin. And we're going to start it through here. Remember, we Cerakoted this, so it's kind of tight fit. Just get everything lined up. Sorry guys, that spring flew out and let me grab it. Got to be careful with that. Sorry, that's one bad thing about working through this camera. It's hard for me to see. So give me just a second guys and I'll be right back. Let me grab that off the floor. Okay guys, I just had to get it started. As you can see, we got it going through. Got a clip to go on both sides. We got one in front of me. I'm gonna have to go get one out of another shop bag. But I'm going to show y'all how this is gonna go in. There we go. Now it's coming through. There we go. Just like that. Let's see. Hopefully it showed it on the camera. Sorry, it was sitting where I could not see. So you're going to get this lined up. And you got a clip that's going to go on both sides. One of these clips was missing when we took it apart. So I do have a bag that's got another set of clips in it. You're just going to put that clip over. And we'll get it in place. Try not to push it back through the other side in the process. And that's all there is to that. So we'll get one more clip just like that. It will go on this other side. Guys, this gun will function with just one clip, but I recommend going ahead and putting both of them on there. Everything is working properly here. So this is where we're at. So we will move on to the next step of this trigger assembly. And before we know it, we'll have it together, guys. All right, now we need to put the sear in. And I got the sear pin right here. I went ahead and started that. It's a little tight. Like I said, we Cerakoted this, and all these parts are a little bit tight. Now, your sear is going to be oriented just like that. So it's just going to set in here, and we're going to drift this in. So I'm going to try to do this on camera the best I can. So y'all bear with me. Okay, that's all we need to do there. And next we'll move on to the safety. Now when we put the safety in here, it's going to be a little bit tight in here. Just because everything got Cerakoted in and out, we did go ahead and actually took some Testors brand enamel paint, and I went ahead and painted the safety again. So that has cured. If you do that, I recommend let it set 24 hours because it will tack up, but it does take a while for it to cure. This has been setting up for about a week. We was waiting on some parts to come in for this gun, and they have come in. So it got plenty of time to cure. Now, if there's a little bit of resistance in this, it will work itself through. I would recommend just put a little bit of gun oil there, and your safety will loosen up slightly over time. It's just going to be that extra thickness in there from the Cerakote inside and out, because we did spray this entire assembly, so we're Cerakoted inside as well. A lot of guns you'll take apart, although this will have bluing or finish on it. This in here will be bare metal. You could go in there and you could sand that, clean it up. I recommend that you just don't do that. So give me just a second and let me go get the parts that we need to finish this off. We are going to need this ball bearing. Got a couple extra little parts we need. Want to make sure they're all in place and ready to go. And we'll put this back together. All right, let's go ahead and get the safety in. There's our safety. Go ahead and push this in. Like I say, it may be a little bit tight. There we go. Now through this hole right here, you've got a ball. Just gonna let that fall in. Got your spring. And you are gonna need something to push that spring in. As you push your pin in. So get that depressed. All right, guys, let me try to get this reset up where I can see here. So you just need you punch to actually push that spring down. You're wanting to push it below this hole. That's where your pin's gonna go. Make sure you get your pin above that spring. We already got the ball, the safety, and it is in the fire position. Sorry, I should have told you guys that that's the lowest position. That'll help it seat easier. Again, I'm gonna try to do this from behind the camera. I'll tell you what, guys, it is difficult trying to show y'all this in this position. So let's see if we can get it done. All right, we just about got it. Let me switch to a thinner pin. Hopefully this will slip. Sorry guys, it is just, I promise you it's not this difficult. It's just with this camera right in your face. And I may have to step back from behind this camera just to get this done. So you can see that pin's trying to go on top, but it's having a little bit of difficult time. Here we go. It's starting to go. If you don't let pressure off of it. There we go. All right. Took a little persuasion there, guys, but we got it. As you can see, that pin is above the spring there. So your safety works. And actually, this isn't as tight as I thought it was going to be. That's absolutely perfect. That's about the right retention we want anyway. Just want to make sure this pin is seated fully without pushing all the way out the other end. And there we go. Ready for the next step. Okay, we're about to the end here. We just got a couple more parts. I may actually have to grab one because I believe our hammer spring, let's see, or a trigger spring, I mean, believe it's one I ordered for replacement, and I've got it in the other shop, so we'll grab it in a minute. So we're gonna need to go ahead and install the trigger. So you're gonna need your trigger pin. You need this pin here. And what we're gonna do, we're gonna start off and just show you what I like to do. I'll polish this where the surface rides on this trigger. I think it feels a little bit less gritty when you do that. Use a little bit of gun oil right here before we get started. All right. I'm gonna go ahead and stick this in like so. Now this bar is gonna need to come over and rest in here. Let's take this action bar here and show you what I'm doing, lifting up, and we're just gonna insert that right there. This little piece right here, it's just gonna go through here, set flush, and then we have the trigger pin itself to go in. And it may be a little bit of a booger to get in. Let's see if we can get it all lined up here. There we go. There it goes. We'll take our bench block. And let's get a steel punch. And you just want to make sure it sets just below flush. I think we went just a little too far maybe. I'm just gonna. All right. That's how that goes. Now we just need to get the hammer spring. It's going to go between that piece and that piece. Let me go grab it. And that will allow us to go ahead and complete this and do our function tests. So let me go grab that. I'll be right back. And that's the last thing we got to do. Essentially, this is complete and ready to go. This will go down. With the pressure of that spring right there, your sear's going to catch. Get my finger in there good. But that's how it's going to go. Once you got that spring pressure on there, it's going to hold that sear in place. Alright, as promised, I was going to show y'all how to put the trigger sear spring in. This is not a factory one. This is actually one that made in the shop. It's actually out of another gun. Ordered one, I just cannot find the package right now. So we'll replace that if we need it in the future. But all you have to do, easiest way to install it, is before you put this pin in, go ahead and take that pin out, give you a little bit more room to work. Get your trigger back some, like that. Simply drop the spring in. You might have to compress it some. Pull your trigger forward. Put this in. And then you're going to need to test this out to make sure that you're locking up correctly. We got full sear engagement and safety on, does not fire, safety off, and it fires. Do not just let that hammer go, guys. You don't want to damage anything. It slips on you like that, just don't let it happen too often. But you want to sit here and test it a little bit. Everything looks good in this. So now we're complete with this trigger assembly. We can go ahead and install it in our firearm. Just where you know, guys, if you ever have to replace your trigger bar, especially if you get a new trigger, you may have to take some meat off of the trigger bar, not this side, but the other side. I'm not going to show you how to do that. You can do it with some stones or a file. That way you have proper engagement and everything. The only reason why I'm not going to show you guys is just because YouTube is taking everything down that they deem that shouldn't be appropriate, and I don't want to get a strike. So it's pretty straightforward, guys, but if you don't know what you're doing, take it to a qualified gunsmith or somebody who knows what they're doing if you ever have to replace the trigger. We did replace the trigger in this one because the one that was in it, he sprayed so much spray paint in this, and it was all up in here, and I tried to clean it out, even used some aircraft stripper, and I just could not get it out of that hinge pin, and I did not like the way it felt, so we went ahead and opted to put a new trigger in it. So but when you do that, just know when you get a new trigger, if you get a trigger over another gun, things may not made up correctly, and you may have to adjust that bar. So and that will require you to file that bar. If you do not know what you're doing, do not touch it.